Hello all my beautiful angels, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your girl Shyla, here with another video. I hope that you had an amazing week. I hope that you were ready to have a fun weekend. I hope at least some of you have some fun stuff planned. I had a pretty busy week, but I will say, and I'm really happy about it, on Wednesday I did absolutely, was it Wednesday? Thursday. On Thursday I did absolutely nothing. I played video games. I posted about on my Instagram. The only thing that I really got dressed to do was to go to Starbucks. Other than that, I pretty much stayed in pajamas all day long. I had really no desire to do anything, and some days you just need a day of rest and relaxation to get your mind right, to get your body right, especially when you've been working. I was working so hard for 2 weeks and packing and unpacking, not really unpacking, I have a mess everywhere, packing and moving and cleaning and fixing up the old house. And any of you that have kids, especially if they're teenagers, you know that you are generally doing most of it. My son helped a little, but I basically did most of it. I mean, that's kind of the thing with having kids, is it's kind of like a thankless job. You pretty much do everything. It's just how it is. Whatever. But like I said, I did absolutely nothing. And today I've done a little. I was actually watching Lindsay Atkinson's video, and I will link it right up here. It was about, you know, resetting your mental health and getting your head back into a good place. And I've had such a hard, rough week that I was watching her video, and one of the things she talks about is if you got clutter everywhere, if your house is a mess, you know, it's good to clean up. It's good to clean everything, because that can help get your mind in a good mental health place. So this morning I woke up and I worked on my room. I worked on unpacking and getting the clutter out of the way and doing laundry and washing stuff. And I'm feeling really good today. And I even, the only other thing I did yesterday was I went to Sprouts, which I posted about, and I got some healthy food. And you know, I'm just feeling good. I'm feeling good. My health is getting into a better place mentally. Got some other tasks I need to do, but that's a whole story for another time. Anyway, today we're gonna do, it's been just over a month since I had my SRS surgery, so I'm gonna do a little update for you. I'm gonna do we're gonna talk about dilating. I did some questions and a little Q&A, and we're gonna talk about all of these things, answer your questions, talk about where I'm at. Before we get going though, take a second, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget that the little bell button, that way you're notified whenever I post a new video. If you're new here, I post every Monday, every Friday, occasionally on a Wednesday. Especially if life gets in the way, you know, like Ian Malcolm said, if life finds a way. You never know when I might post stuff. So if you have the bell button turned on, you will be notified whenever I post a new video. And if you are a returning subscriber, as usual, I always appreciate every single one of you. Also, don't forget to check out my Instagram. I post there daily. I post polls. I post questions. We get to be interactive as long as you're not creepy. Check that out. It's always a fun time there. And also don't forget to check out my Poshmark. I just listed a whole bunch of new stuff on my Poshmark, lots of stuff for sale. As I'm unpacking stuff from moving, I'm finding more and more stuff that I can put on there, because I have so many clothes, so much stuff that I've bought through this journey that I've bought, and I was like, oh, I think that would look cute, and I get it, it doesn't fit me, especially being bigger. So I have a lot of stuff on there if you want to check it out, especially if you're a bigger girl like I am. There might be something on there that you like. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. So like I said, it has been 1 month, just over 1 month since I had my surgery. And I'm not gonna lie, the surgery was crazy. I had it on February 5th, and anesthesia. I remember getting wheeled up there. I remember vaguely having a conversation with the anesthesiologist. I don't remember the doctor coming in at all. I remember vaguely talking to him, and then I remember waking up and being like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're all done. I'm like, really? You know, I guess that's just how surgery goes. But everything has been going good. Everything is healing good. You know, I will say that all the puffiness is starting to go down, the swelling is starting to go down. Things that you should probably know if you're planning to have the surgery, the first time you see it is not gonna look good. It's not gonna look like you've got a gorgina the first time that you get to get the little mirror and see it. I actually waited several days until I looked at it, because I had a good idea how it was gonna be. I don't think I actually looked at her until when I started my dilating, and I had to have the mirror and looking down there, and it looked so beat up and jacked up and bruised and swollen. And thankfully all the swelling is starting to go down. The stitching is starting to, the stitching is starting to go away. It looks like the incisions where the stitches were are all starting to heal nicely. I'm starting to see the puffiness go down on them, which is really nice. One thing I noticed recently is that, also before we get going too much into this, I am going to be talking pretty explicitly about things, so if you have younger kids, you might not want them to be watching it, or if you're watching at work, you might not want to be watching it, but it is all for educational purposes, so if you are sensitive to stuff, I have let you all be warned, because I'm going to be pretty blunt about some of the things I talk about, and anyway, now we've got that out of the way. Like I said, the puffiness is starting to go down. I noticed recently that my clitoris, it was really, really big and puffy. It's starting to, like, the puffiness and the swelling is starting to go down because they actually make a clitoris for you. It's starting to go down, and it's not as big and puffy as it was. My little girl in the boat was definitely not a little girl in the boat after my surgery. She was a big, thick girl in the boat, as opposed to up to about the last, like, week or so, and the puffiness is starting to go down, and the stitching around it is starting to go away because they leave, they have the regular stitches they do for some of it, but then they also have the dissolving stitches that dissolve over time while you're at home as everything heals. I noticed some of those are starting to go away, which makes me happy. One of the things couple of things, if you want to listen to your big sister Shyla, if you're planning on having the surgery, something you should definitely take with you and have in the house for after your surgery is baby wipes. Trust me, you will thank me later. Especially right after the surgery, as soon as you can start using the bathroom once the catheter comes out, and this might be kind of, TMI for some people, but I gave you the disclosure. Since everything is swollen down there because they have to actually trim your urethra and make it smaller, for the path that it's taking, as opposed to coming out of you, they're, in the front, they're trimming it so it's a smaller distance, it's a shorter tube. But there's also swelling that's going on from everything down there. So instead of just being like a normal stream, it can kind of spray everywhere, which is kind of gross. So I wish I would have known that. I actually bought some in the airport for my way home. That way you can clean up better, as opposed to just using toilet paper. You have your baby wipes. It'll help keep you fresh. And you will also thank me if you have the baby wipes afterwards, because which we'll get into more in the dilating. You're dilating 4 times a day for the first month. But with the baby wipes, you can help clean yourself up, so you're not feeling like you're having all of that, lube and stuff down there all day long. Anyway, we'll get into that more in the dilating. But like I said, everything is starting to look good. I'm really, really pleased with how everything looks. I mean, I knew it was going to look good because Dr. Lay is amazing and she's so well recommended, but especially considering she does a 2-stage surgery with the vaginoplasty first and then a labiaplasty to fix everything and create more of the cosmetics of the inner labia and the hood for the clitoris later, as opposed to doing it all at once. I'm still really impressed with how natural everything is starting to look down there. I just need to lose a little weight, in my upper stomach, and just above that in that little mound, so everything looks a little better. But everything is starting to look so good down there. It makes me so happy. As far as the surgery goes, the surgery wasn't that bad. The recovery wasn't that bad. What's been bad has kind of been stuff at home, like, having to move in the middle of stuff. And there's been a couple instances where I panicked. Like, I had like a blood clot that was attached to some stitches that came out. That came out. We won't get into that story. It's a whole story behind that, but it came out and there was blood everywhere. And I panicked because I thought something was really, really wrong, and it was scary. And as a trans girl, we're never going to have periods, but it was like experiencing my first accident because there was blood everywhere. I had to throw away a pair of leggings. I had to throw away some panties. It was bad. And I know that when I came home, I had maxi pads to use. They were giving us maxi pads for the bleeding, but I didn't really use any of those when I came home, except for the first couple of days, because my bleeding had basically stopped. And I wish I don't think it would have helped. There was so much blood and it was everywhere. It was bad. Anyway, digressing. So that's it for the topic for that. That's kind of where I'm at in terms of that. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in the questions, but let's get into the dilating. We're going to call this Dilating 101, dilating with Big Sister Shyla. So when you have your surgery, at first they stick gauze up there to keep everything open, to keep your vagina from collapsing, because it's something new that was never there before, and it likes to, and it's the muscles are constantly trying to constrict it down because they're not used to it being there. So you have to teach it once the gauze comes out to stay open, which is why they give you dilators. And the dilators range anywhere from a size 1, which is what you start with, the little tiny one, and then as it goes up, especially, well, with my doctor, I don't know about all doctors of mine, they have little tapered versions of the next size, which you could see this goes up to the size 2. I don't know if you could see that. I don't know if it's going to focus. Hopefully it did. The tapered version you're supposed to use for like 5 minutes as you're getting close to moving up in size, because you're supposed to move up every couple of weeks to the next size to, you know, to make everything stretched out to where it should be. But the tapered one helps get you used to the bigger size. It has little dots on it, as you could see. I don't know if you could see the little dots. It has little dots on it, and the very last dot is 6 inches, which is what their hope is to get to on every surgery. So that is your hope, to get to the 6 inches. And I will tell you, my girls, that getting to the 6 inches can be a pain. It's fine, generally fine for me getting in. Each one of these, from what I've been told, is about a half an inch. Or about an inch. So it's fine for me getting to about 4 inches down to that last one there. I think it's about an inch. I think getting to that last one's pretty easy, and then the last 2 dots, you know, takes a little work, takes a little breathing, takes a little patience as the muscles, you know, relax and let you go deeper. They go all the way up from a number 1. They go up to a number 4, which you may or may not get to. They told me that if you end up at a number 3, that's, you know, that's generally where a lot of girls end up. But you can see the difference in size between the number 1 and the number 3, which is about where I'm at right now. And then they also have a number 4, and that is, you can see the difference in size between the 3 and the 4 if it focuses, which some girls get to, some girls don't. This guy is pretty scary. I don't know if I'll get to this because these are really, really rigid, because they're made of glass. Some places are made of plastic, but this one is made, these ones are made of glass, so they're really, really stiff, really, really rigid. That way, when you put it in, you're supposed to hold it there for 15 minutes, keeps everything open, get your muscles used to that body part. So with the dilating, you're doing it, you'll do it the first day, you'll do it for 5 times a day, and then after that, the first 30 days, you'll do 4 times a day. And I will tell you that is, you got to space it out. You got to be able to find time for it. If you can, I definitely recommend taking that entire month off work if you can, because I can't even imagine trying to dilate while you're at work, you know, going and finding, I guess, a bathroom, like a family bathroom, and putting down like a thing and doing your dilating, locking the doors, staying in there for 15 minutes on the bathroom floor, you know, pass. I really think, you know, if you can, try to take that month off. And wait to go back to work until you're down to twice a day, which I recently started doing twice a day yesterday, which I got to be honest with you, it was so nice doing it once in the morning and once in bed, once before bed, because the 4 times a day, especially like the last one, I mean, there were times when I was tired at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and my last dilating was between 11 and 12, and I would fall asleep and I'd have to set an alarm to wake myself back up so I could do my dilating, because it needs to be done. And you don't want it to collapse after everything that you've done, and then it's hard to get back to sleep. It's like it's like a whole thing. Anyway, I will say, for all of my sisters that are having a surgery or planning to have a surgery, dilating kind of sucks. It is really not fun at all, especially in the beginning. I mean, you've just had your surgery, everything is sore, and you're like stabbing yourself with this dilator, and your girl is all mad and swollen and angry, and she doesn't want to be stabbed with this thing, and you're stabbing it anyway, and it's really sensitive. I will say that it does get easier. 100% it gets easier. Every time I've moved up in size, it has been uncomfortable. It has been hard to get in. It has been painful because everything is so tight. But as your muscles get used to it and loosen up and relax, it does get easier with each size, and especially from the beginning. So even if it sucks at first, it will get easier as you go along. Definitely something that's good to know, because everybody talks about it. I know my girl Julie Vu warned me about, you know, dilating and how much it sucks in the beginning. I was like, oh my God, how bad could it be? So yeah, it sucked in the beginning, but it will get easier. And I don't know how long you do the twice a day for. I know from twice a day, it'll go down to like once a day, and then once a week, and then once a month. And I think even if you're having regular sex with boys, you're still supposed to do it like once every month or so, just to make sure everything stays open. In addition to that, like I said, with the lube and the baby wipes, after your catheter comes out, you start douching, which is nice. They generally give you a kit to do the douching, which is really nice to do in the shower at night. But if you're dilating 4 times a day, then you have all the lube and stuff in there for the entire rest of the day, and even overnight, because you're only doing it once a day. And you know, it feels so gross and nasty, and you'll notice it start to come out, and you may notice, like, and this might be TMI, you may notice, you know, like leaking out, and it can start to smell just from the, you know, the lube and it being in there, and yeah, it's a whole thing. But once you go down to twice a day, you can douche after each one that you do, once in the morning and once at night, which is nice because then the goop isn't up there all the time. But having the baby wipes will help make you feel fresher, because after you're done doing it, you can use the baby wipes to wipe away the excess lube that's there, and at least that helps with some freshness. And you know, after you go to the bathroom, if any lube's leaked out, you can wipe it away. Might be TMI, but like I said, this is educational. If you can't handle it, hopefully it's mainly girls watching and trans girls watching. You know, you get me. You know what it's like. You know where I'm going with this, and I'm not gonna censor what I'm talking about with it. But I will say, one of the nicest things that was told to me is if you are having the surgery with your dilators, because they don't want you to put the dilators through, they want you to take at least a dilator with you, because when you come home on the flight, because you know, if something happens and you lose your luggage and you don't have your dilators when you get home, and it doesn't come back for like a few days, you know, all that surgery you might have to have repairs done to it and get it fixed. So this really, you know, all the staff there is amazing with Dr. Lay and Dr. Meltzer, and one of their, I guess it's like maybe their customer relations girl, she comes around, she was there like every day, her name was Deb, she was so sweet and so nice, and basically she's teaching you basically about having a vagina, because if you're a transgender girl, you know, you didn't grow up having a vagina. You didn't learn about your vagina with, you know, with other girls, or, you know, in sex education. I mean, no matter how much you know about, no matter how much you know about vaginas from, you know, learning about them and whatnot, it's not the same as actually having a vagina. So she would come around and she would talk to you about it and things to expect, and, you know, what's going on with your girl, and basically teaching you about your vagina. And one of the best tips she gave me on the way home was don't try to take all your dilators with you. Just take the #1 dilator on the plane, wrap it in like the pads that they have. I call them puppy pads, but they're not. They're like surgical. They're like the surgical pads to put on like on the bed and whatnot. They'll have them at the hospital. Wrap your number one dilator up in that with your lube and like a glove, so you know, to clean up and whatnot, and just take that little bit with you to carry on, and then put the rest of your dilators in your checked luggage, because they do give you a letter to explain to security officials about, you know, why you have these. But she told me that if you have this big old mass, the sensors will pick up the weight, and then they'll have this whole thing where they want to take them all out and inspect them all and go through your letter, and it's a whole thing in front of everybody. So just take the #1 one, and you should be able to get right through. They didn't even bat an eye at my carry-on. So anyway, if you have any questions about the dilating, please leave them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. You know, I didn't write any of this down, so I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. Okay, so I did a little Q&A on my Instagram with some questions that some of you might have about the surgery and the recovery and whatnot. So I'm gonna go through those with you guys now, if I can get my phone unlocked. Because it's being a pain, and I'm going to do my best to answer your questions. I know this video is getting kind of long, so I hope that you guys are watching, but I mean, it is what it is. It was a big surgery. There's lots of questions about it. There's lots of stuff to talk about. Okay, so the first one was, let's see here. First one was, any questions about my SRS surgery or recovery? How does it feel? It feels, you know, first coming out of surgery, I mean, it feels so different. It feels amazing. You know, it feels amazing knowing that I have it. But I will say that coming out of surgery, I mean, you definitely get like that phantom limb thing. And I was talking to my girl Samantha Lux about it. There were times that I would sit down like to use the bathroom after my surgery, and I still catch myself doing it occasionally, especially in the mornings when I'm like really tired and I'm half asleep. I go to sit down and I instinctively go to like tuck him down, you know, what was there before for all those years, you know, so it doesn't spray everywhere, and I go to tuck it down and I'm like, oh, there is nothing there anymore. In terms of how does it feel, I mean, you know, it's just such an amazing feeling knowing that what I have always wanted my entire life is finally there, and I feel so complete having it, if that makes sense. I don't know if you were talking about the mental feelings about it, the emotional feelings, or like the physical feelings, right? If you were talking about the physical, there's still, I mean, a month in, most of the pain is gone. I can kind of wear what I want to wear. I still can't work out yet, but there are times, like especially sitting down, I still have to sit down gingerly, because if I sit down, I don't want to hurt it. And it could still be a little uncomfortable, getting comfortable and whatnot. And especially if you sit and if the clothes that you're wearing kind of ride up it, it gets irritated, if that makes sense. If you're, if stuff rides up your girl, you know, it gets irritated, especially while it's healing. I hope that answers the question. Next one is, any questions about my SRS surgery recovery? Hardest and best part of surgery and recovery. Hardest part of surgery, hands down, was the fasting for basically ended up being almost 3 days of fasting before I was able to eat again. Like 2.5 days. That was the hardest part of surgery. That entire day where I couldn't eat anything, and then the next day where I was having the surgery, I didn't eat anything that morning, I didn't eat anything that day. But, you know, because I had the surgery, I was so hungry. At one point, I was telling my son, I was in the shower like the day after not eating. I was in the shower that morning and almost felt like I was having trouble breathing, maybe because my body was having trouble functioning because I had like no sustenance and no food. And especially because I worked out when I got down there, and then the morning before I started fasting, I worked out. So that was definitely the hardest part. I don't know if that's like what you were looking for, but of all of the stuff, that was 100% the hardest part of surgery. Hardest part of recovery has been just basic stuff, like when I like moving and exerting myself too much, like when I was moving and cleaning, and I definitely start to feel tired. I definitely start to feel it. I'll even start to get chills and feel just so worn out and so overwhelmed with everything that it's like, if I start getting too much pain down there and overexerting, and I'll feel it and it'll get to me mentally and just totally bring me down. Best part of surgery and recovery. Best part of surgery was that moment when I woke up and I knew that I had come that far and done everything, and was at this point that I never thought that I would be at, this point that I wanted to be at when I was little. That was the best part of the surgery, was that moment when not the moment when I woke up from the anesthesia, because I was out of it. That moment that I woke up and I was actually aware and awake and not still feeling the anesthesia. That was the best part of the surgery. Best part of recovery has definitely been the last week or so has been the swelling going down and everything's starting to look good and starting to look normal and not looking as big and swollen. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope this comes out looking good. That's been one of the best parts of the recovery. And the other best part of recovery has been moving down to the twice a day dilating. Because let me tell you, the 4 times a day dilating, that took so much of my time and was so... It was just kind of exhausting doing that. So that was that. And let's find another question. Next question is, what are your overall thoughts on the recovery? Do you recommend this surgery to a young trans girl? Overall thoughts on the recovery is the recovery has gone pretty smooth. As long as you follow their directions and what they tell you to do, I think your recovery is going to go smooth. I think if you overexert yourself, like I've had to do a couple of times, you'll definitely feel like it definitely be rougher. And also it's going to depend person to person based on how well you heal and recover from things. I did boost my vitamin C quite a bit before surgery and I've still been taking it to help promote healing. So there's things you could do like that to help. I'm generally a pretty fast healer. I don't get sick very often. So everything heals on me really, really quick. My boobs healed pretty quick. This is healing pretty quick. But it's going to be different from person to person. As far as my phone locked on me. Would I recommend the surgery to a young trans girl? I mean, that is up to you. I know a lot of trans girls don't have the surgery, feel completely complete with what they're having down there. One of the trans girls I follow, Becky Bolton, I'll link her channel up here if I can. She has said repeatedly that she is not having the surgery and she is fine with what she has down there, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it's definitely up to you. If you feel that you want to have it, don't have it just for sexual reasons, and don't have it for anybody else. If it's what you feel you want to feel complete, then it's definitely worth having. So I hope that answers your question. For me, I wanted to have it to feel complete, and I did it more for like clothing and like the stuff I want to wear. And you know, I don't want to tuck anymore. I hate tucking. I hate having to worry about what's going to be poking out. I would 100% rather worry about having a camel toe and whether or not I got 1 hump or 2 humps going on than having to worry about being in my leggings and having that shit poke out, or being in short shorts and having that shit poke out and having to worry about that type of stuff, or, you know, stuff like that is what I don't want to worry about. So I hope that answers your question for you. Okay. Any questions about my surgery recovery? That was not a question. Okay, this is the last one. This is quite TMI, but does sexual pleasure still exist for you? So I know a lot of girls, it varies from girl to girl, you know, when you can start feeling everything working down there. I know that it's supposed to, and I think it's a very small percentage that it doesn't. There's always that risk that you're not going to be able to feel anything, but since they did make a clitoris for you, you are supposed to be able to have sexual pleasure and feel everything, just like a girl that was born with a cisgender girl that was born naturally with a vagina. Everything down there, I haven't really messed with it. I mean, you know, you got to kind of learn everything, you know. It's 100% different, you know. Like I said repeatedly, I am 99% lesbian. I am pretty good with how shit works. I'm pretty skilled with what I know, with what I'm doing. But it's on someone else, and I don't really know what I'm doing with myself. I haven't really messed with it a lot though, because everything is healing, so I don't know yet. Maybe when I do my next, I'm sure when I do my next update, I'll probably do a 3-month update, and then I'll probably know and have experienced everything. So I hope that answers the question. It's supposed to work. I haven't messed with anything down there because I'm afraid of how everything feels. I mean, like, every now and then I'll get twinges of like, I feel like it's the nerves connecting, of like, just like shocks, like in the clitoris, which I'm assuming, like I said, are nerves connecting. I'm assuming everything's going to work. You know, I've touched it. It's really sensitive down there. But I haven't really tried to orgasm or played with it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I could feel sensitivity down there, especially on my clitoris, but I haven't really poked around with it. So other than that, I'm going to end this here because this video ended up being super long. If you guys all made it to the end, anyone who made it to the end, put down like, I don't know, put down like a peach emoji, so I know you guys made it to the end of this. And other than that, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you guys back on Monday with another video. Love you all.